you got symbols there like Satan that they can easily draw upon, and they get a lot of back source material, and that makes it really easy for the animators to come up with their ideas because they're basing it on material that's already out there. And as far as exorcisms go, there's actually different levels of exorcism in the Catholic Church. The lightest one is called is just a blessing, and what happens there is the priest usually takes a few days to get himself ready. Make sure he's as good as he can be. He comes out to your house, because I've had it done at my house, and he basically says prayers and sprinkles holy water. That's your basic little blessing right there. Then it goes all the way up to where you have two priests, and for what most people see as the exorcism on TV, that actually requires a lot. It's really hard to get the church to do that, and it's very intensive. And you have two priests, and one will watch whatever they're supposed to be exercising, while the other reads in Latin. And what you have there is he'll say a few lines of that, and then he'll say a few lines of something else. And the other priest is watching for reactions, because when the other priest is actually saying the exorcism, they're looking to get a reaction out of something. Then when that priest switches to some type of poem or something like that, the reaction is supposed to start. And a lot of times there, you can see if something's fake or not.
Now, one thing that also we have to talk about animes, that angels. There have been plenty of those used in different animes, where the angel is part of the story. Plays an important role, and that's one thing they've used a few times.
Yeah, most recently there was an anime called Pantyhose and Stocking with Garterbell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of rude and crude humor, and it's definitely not for anyone under 18. But then again, I really wasn't offended by it, because it played on a lot of stereotypes, and a lot of times the humor was kind of a little crude for me, and honestly I didn't understand all the jokes, but I still watched it through, and I really wasn't offended, because the whole thing is a parody of everything, and you just got to understand that, and that's just what some people find humorous.
In Sister Princess, which was put out by 80 Films, there's a scene where there was this portrait of angels that the light had gone out, and they had to go find a light bulb in order to put it back into the portrait where the angels were. Also, too, in Sister Princess, they did a story where they all wanted to, the sisters wanted to dress up and become brides, and they did a nice little church scene in it for just a split second, a white church steeple and all that, because they were thinking about marriage. Now, Christian marriages over in Japan is a very popular theme. They do it a whole lot over there in Japan in real life.
I think it's the same reason that we like anime so much, because it's something foreign, it's something different. We can see Western cartoons on so many channels at any time of the day, but to watch anime, we actually have to usually go out and look for it. And I think it applies over in Japan. The reason that they use Christian imagery is because it's not as much of what they're used to. We like to think of Japan as this really complicated futuristic society, but I have a friend who's a cultural anthropologist, and he's over in Japan right now, and he still uses things like fax machines every day, and so as much as anime shows that the West has had a big influence on the East, they still do a lot of things their own way. It's just that whenever they do anime, again, it's fantasy. So they like to to do things that they don't see every day.
Very true. They are very fascinated with us. Uh, Recently, about a few years back, they found a tombstone. It's supposed to be the oldest Christian tombstone in Japan, and they felt like what happened was that they hid the grave so it wouldn't get desecrated. Um, but they found a real old tombstone. I think it went back to like the 16th century or so. You have to understand something about Japan too, a little bit of history. During the time of Lord Taganaga, he went and he expelled all the foreign Christians, but there were still Christians that had been proselytized. And his grandson, when he took over, hated Christians. But, you know, he was like another Nero, you might say. And he really persecuted them and killed a lot of them off. There was only one Christian uprising, and it got quelled. Because they just basically ran out of food and didn't have the military might to keep it up for very long. And then he finally made the decision, okay, we're shutting off our borders. We are not going to be dealing with anybody except for a small little colony of Dutch people. They had like sort of, even like a prison type of deal, and that lasted for about 200 years till Commodore Perry came.
The black ships.
Yeah. And we made that demand: either you sign a trade agreement, or else we'll take you over. But I can't really blame them, because before they closed their borders, there was a Portuguese ship wanting to come into the harbor and sign a trade agreement, and they didn't listen to what the emperor said, or the shogun. They had that ship torched and sent the survivors back and said, if you even send another ship again, we'll do the same thing over. We don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. No more. That's it.
And you know, to me, this sounds like one of those things where if you add bad apples, ruins the barrel. You know, you had you had those traders, and that they were very rude, and you know, didn't want to follow the laws of the land that they were on, and so they were punished.
So, but with Commodore Perry, you know, I can see why he made his stance. You know, he said, okay, you either sign it or else we'll take you over, because the Japanese have respect for power. If you have the power, they respect you. If you don't, they kind of maybe look down on you. But that's the Japan of the past. This is not the Japan of today. We have to make an distinction between those time periods, because the Japan of today is more modernized. They do have their own traditions, and you know, like we over here in the United States have ours. But they are not, you know, bloodthirsty. Will go and do like they did during ancient times. Like, let's say before Commodore Perry came, let's say you're a poor sailor, get washed overboard on your ship, but you land on the island of Japan. They look at you and say, "Oh, you're a pirate." The punishment for piracy is death, and they just chop your head off, and that'd be the end of it.
Again, you know, we're not picking on Japan here, because we've also had our dark times, and again, you got to remember this was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, more than that, more like 200 years ago.
Well, I said hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Would they like putting input into this? Because, like I said, we don't mind talking, but we also want to make sure you guys have your say-so in it. Does anybody have anything they want to add to it? Yeah.
And they use Psalms and Bible verses as almost spells.
Yes, Lena Chavaldi Dayon. There's a nice drawing of the Notre Dame in it, and it's beautifully done. I mean, I was very impressed by that, and that's also too part of the thing. The church does play a very important part in that story, because the body didn't decompose, and they go like, well, our rules is we can't bury her because it's something that's not natural. So that's a good thing to point out. Thank you very much.
And
yes, ma'am?
In the anime Romeo and Juliet, their theme song happens to be a church hymn.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's sung in Japanese, and then in the I recognized the tune when I was watching it. I was like, I know this from somewhere. And then later on in the anime, when
All right.
And then there's another church team, so Catholicism plays a whole huge role in that one, in Romeo and Juliet,
Okay.
the anime, because it's based off of the actual Shakespeare play.
Okay.
And
I saw If You Raise Me Up. It's really
Yeah.
nice in the
Oh.
anime. It's very well placed and
sounds like
really
it.
touched.
And you also got to remember that when that anime is set, that period in time, there wasn't as many churches as we have today. You didn't have all these different denominations. It was before a lot of these splits, and that's why. Now, also, that reminds me, it's not just Christianity that anime uses. Even their own Buddhist philosophies, they parody a lot of times. And usually you'll see before the episode, you'll see a little screen that says, this is just a parody, and it's not really meant to represent this religion.